On the left, I'm going to cut an 8-pitch full-depth thread, and on the right a 2-start half-height 8-pitch thread which will have the same appearance as a 16-pitch thread. There are 2 breakaway gauges on the end of the sanding tool. One is for gauging the tooth height of a full-depth 8-pitch thread, and the other is for gauging the tooth height of a half-height thread. I'll use the thinner feeder gauge marked with a 16 to make a shoulder to use as a reference on the half-height profile, and the thicker feeder gauge marked with an 8 for the full-height profile. Now let's set up to do some threading. Use the crank to tighten the chuck, but snug all of the jack screws for an extra level of security. When generating male threads, the cutting process will unscrew the chuck and spoil the threads if the chuck isn't secure. Remove any clearance between the spindle and supports and add a drop or 2 of silicone oil. Putting the cutter against the relief of the thread blank provides a stable point to rotate the banjo around when visually aligning the champ to the lathe ways. In this case, I will use the crank as a depth stop so I don't have to worry about hitting the shoulder of the larger thread. If you are cutting a 2-start half-height thread, do this operation with the toggle toward you when the spindle is indexed toward the headstock by 1/16 inch. I'll start with the smaller 16-pitch profile. The cutter depth is set so that it just touches the relief. Now I cut the first of 2 half-height 8-pitch threads. Because the cutter is only half as deep as it would be on a full-depth thread, it will leave a flat space between the threads. Next, I'll flip the toggle of the champ which indexes the part 1/16 inch and cut the second half-height thread in the center of the flat space. What you end up with are 2 8-pitch threads side by side with a tooth profile of a 16-pitch thread. Next, I'll set the cutter so that the point touches the relief for the full-depth 8-pitch thread, which in this case happens to be the outside of the 16-pitch profile, and cut the full-depth thread. Without modifying the champ, I've cut both an 8-pitch full-depth thread and a 2-start half-height thread that has the look of a 16-pitch thread. Hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Bye now.